Watch soon in the November issue. An exclusive interview with the Kultivator Trade and Industrial Group, founded in 1992. For over 25 years, the company has been producing ready-to-eat breakfasts, cereal flakes, and oatmeal. In 2010, a new potato processing and potato flakes production plant was opened in the Ryazan region. To meet the plant's needs, the company grows and stores potatoes on its own. The group's land fund is about 20,000 hectares in the Ryazan and Vologda regions. The Kultivator Group is a vertically integrated structure that carries out a full production cycle, from growing raw materials to releasing finished products. The company has modern production facilities, financial resources, and experience in all sales channels, providing a high level of service. Potato flakes are produced with different bulk densities, from 240 to 450 grams per liter, and are packed in kraft bags of 15, 20, or 25 kilos, with the possibility of packing in a larger volume. The production facilities are equipped with modern European equipment from the Tummers Company, which allows processing more than 40,000 tons of potatoes per season and obtaining up to 7,000 tons of flakes. The products comply with the international certification standard FSSC 22000. Since the launch of the plant, potato flakes have been actively used by the largest Russian manufacturers of chips, snacks, fast food, and others. The geography of deliveries is extensive, from Kazakhstan and Belarus to Europe, Africa, and South America. Don't miss the issue.
The issue of the competitiveness of domestic potato breeding has literally been on the lips of agrarians for the past few years. Do Russian varieties really lag behind European ones? As part of a partnership project with AgroExpo Group, the organizer of the Agros and Agrotech Expo exhibitions, potatoes, vegetables, fruits. Today, we will visit an enterprise that ranks first in Russia for the selection of table potato varieties. This is the DokaGene Selection Genetics Center. We will see mini tuber production, learn about our selected varieties, and discuss promoting potatoes.
I would like to know about the direction of the company's activities and what the main areas are, because it seems you have a very broad scope from selection to processing. Is there a key direction among these?
Having lasted more than 25 years, it began with the development of unique installations for the production of mini tubers of potatoes. This is a stage in potato seed production, and then one thing led to another, leading to a very large volume of production of licensed seed varieties, that is, foreign selection. About 10 years ago, we launched our own breeding program, and now in terms of seed production of table varieties, our enterprise is in first place in Russia. Accordingly, this generally characterizes the level, volume, and scale of the work of our enterprise.
So basically, you could say that it originates from selection, right? The first thing you started with was selection.
Seed production selection is a unified business process. Worldwide, it is not separated because varieties exist only in the form of seed material. And accordingly, of course, there was initially a selection of varieties that are needed for production.
Has the approach to the process of seed production selection changed recently? Are there any, for example, tools that allow for the intensification of this process and speed up the development of a new variety?
There is a very large set of reserves that have still not been used. I want to say that even within the framework of the Federal Scientific and Technical Program, it would be possible to It is much more effective to help the industry, for example, in matters of independent variety assessment, disease resistance, and increasing the level of state variety testing, because it is more qualified to provide information for seed production, such as the effectiveness of fertilizers, protective agents, and micronutrients. However, for some reason, these aspects have remained out of focus. Behind the scenes, the main focus within the Federal Scientific and Technical Program is on the formation of new breeding enterprises, but it should be understood that creating these enterprises from scratch is a very long-term topic. It should be understood that they will not be able to make any real changes in the next 10-15 years, because success in selection does not come immediately, and seed production also requires effort to go through all the steps in order to be able to speak more or less confidently about the merits of one's products.
And how are things with the breeders themselves? We are hearing more and more that there are few young specialists. What is the situation like now in this regard? How would you assess it?
There are indeed very few of them, but there was a long period in our state when professionals in material production were they have fallen out of the list of priority areas in education. Therefore, it is not surprising that young people have redirected their focus to other directions, but I won't talk about this for long. I hope that a new change will come. This is not a limiting factor for the development of seed production selection today.
And what if we compare? Because phrases like this are often heard that Russian potato breeding does not reach the standards that are present in European counterparts. What can you say about this in this regard?
Well, it is undoubtedly necessary to assess these levels of competitiveness very objectively. In brief, I want to say that European selection has an advantage in the sense that they have been working on high marketability of varieties for a very long time. That is the shape, the uniformity of shape, the uniformity of size. These have been priorities for them for about 50 years. Here, we mainly focused on the effectiveness of the varieties in terms of disease resistance and their technological aspects so that they can be stored well for a long time. And accordingly, using our company as an example, I can say that the strong points of our varieties are, of course, their resistance to diseases. This has been particularly evident in the last 2 years, when climate change has led to the emergence of new pathogens and an increase in their harmfulness. And we see a huge advantage of our varieties compared to foreign ones. A broad attention to these indicators has only recently increased, particularly when the cost of protection systems rose significantly and new pathogens emerged. Well, accordingly, there are pros and cons to both our selection and foreign selection. So we already have more than 10 varieties in our lineup. We have a very strong position on red-skinned varieties and on varieties with white flesh. These are niche areas where there were not enough varieties on the market. We have completely filled these niches. That is, our varieties include red-skinned ones like Carmen, Flamingo, and Oscar. Kalinka, they cover the entire niche. With white flesh, we have Artarial and Athletic. This is also an interesting direction because there was a period when a certain type of potato became predominant on the store shelf. For example, round and yellow. But we must understand that we should strive for at least 5 varieties of potatoes on the shelf. White, yellow, red, brown, and exotic. This is generally non-traditional potato, for example, with pink flesh or purple skin. And we already have such varieties.
Why do you consider this particular shelf to be preferable?
Because it meets all needs, even the most unusual ones. And when there is only one type of product, the consumer feels a sense of limited choice. Still, lately our consumers have a fairly wide choice in all positions, and potatoes should in general expand the range of products on store shelves in the same way.
10 years ago, you started focusing on your own selection, not just propagation, but specifically selecting certain varieties right here. How has the situation changed in the current mode? And is there anything fundamentally new that you are doing, unlike 10 years ago?
Yes, our company's extensive experience and analysis of the situation allowed us to timely assess the enormous risks of dependence on foreign selection. The government recognized this assessment a little later. In fact, the significance of seed selection is of utmost importance in crop production as a whole, because, for example, when evaluating potato varieties, according to leading global experts, the effectiveness of potato farming is primarily determined by the correct selection of the variety, as the variety carries a multitude of quality characteristics that essentially define its intended purpose, determine resistance to pathogens, storage ability, and even factors such as early maturity, efficiency of mineral fertilizer use, and resilience to stress factors. All of these are varietal indicators, so no other factor of intensification can compare to the varieties in terms of their contribution to the final efficiency of production. Therefore, the government is paying more and more attention to these issues because, for example, regarding potatoes, modern potato farming enterprises in the Russian Federation are in the stage of development. They began to mainly use varieties of foreign selection, and this led to the fact that, well, when it appeared in general, when it comes to the dangers, or rather the facts of sanctions, everyone understood that it is necessary to have much greater independence in these matters.
With a large quantity of products, we are now confidently approaching the export threshold, so to speak. We talk a lot about export. Regarding potatoes, how do you think this product is perceived today from an export perspective?
Undoubtedly, Russian potato exports have enormous potential. This applies to both fresh potatoes and processed products as well as seed material. Why? Because we have an advantage in climatic resources. After all, potatoes are a crop of a cool climate, and it should be understood that the climate is becoming increasingly hot, making potato cultivation in many regions of the world very, stressful, quite difficult. Russia has enormous potential in cooler regions and vast land resources, but it is important to understand that export is not just something you do casually. You need to invest in this direction. Firstly, if we are talking about the export of varieties, it is necessary for these varieties to be included in the local registers of the countries to which we want to export, so that they are officially approved there. It is necessary to invest very large resources in marketing, advertising, and promoting these varieties. There is currently no shortage anywhere in the world. However, if we dream a little, if the macroeconomic policy of our country becomes more interested in the development of all domestic production and the economy as a whole, then the competitiveness of our products will undoubtedly increase. To do this, we generally need to resolve a number of issues. For example, to eliminate the absurd situation where prices for goods and materials, such as fertilizers, protective agents, metals, gas, and fuel, are higher than global prices. You understand that these are blocking factors that will not allow for ensuring competitiveness in the global market. It should be the other way around, because this concerns the rational use of the natural resources of the Russian Federation, and if they are used rationally in the interests of the entire economy, then without a doubt there will be no equal to Russian potatoes in terms of competitiveness in the global market.
Speaking of the prospects you have outlined, ideally, apart from being a dream, they can become a reality. How does the company view its own prospects and development?
Our enterprise has all the components of high competitiveness. Firstly, we have already established a special material and technical base, and it is quite large. We have already achieved a tremendous high level of qualification. We have a team of highly qualified specialists. We use modern technologies. And the fifth factor is that we are completely independent in this area. Do you understand? We produce seed material and varieties absolutely independently of anyone. When they say that someone is blocking something somewhere, we certainly listen to it very calmly. Well, for God's sake, we will ensure the precise production of both varieties and seeds in the necessary volumes. And our enterprise is developing in the direction of increasing capacity, but these are not the main indicators. Rather, it is the direction of improving the quality of our products. The quality of both varieties and seeds is evaluated independently. This is not only our own conviction. It must also comply with the requirements of standards and certification, and accordingly this is a very complex and difficult to achieve level. But we are precisely focused on ensuring that our products meet the highest quality standards.
We are currently in the greenhouse where mini tubers are propagated. It's happening. Mini tubers are being produced. These are our potato plants. You see, they are already big. They grow in special trays through which the nutrient solution is supplied. That is, there is neither soil nor peat nor any other substrate here. Just a liquid in which all our nutrients are present. And so they grow over time from small plants to this size. Here we have different varieties. This variety, for example, is already blooming. This one has already opened.
Are these feathers of different ages? Do they have these shorter ones and these taller ones? Or are they just like this?
These are just different varieties. That is, they also look different in the field. Some varieties mature faster and start producing mini tubers, while others take a little longer. This variety has matured faster. It has already bloomed and has started to produce mini tubers.
Can you tell us about the process from how a mini tuber appears, how it is obtained, what happens to produce a mini tuber, and how it is then propagated?
First, we obtain healthy plants that are already free from any unnecessary living organisms, viruses, bacteria, and they take either the tuber or the plant itself from the field, already from field plants, and then in an excellent laboratory, under special sterile conditions, sterile, healthy plants are obtained. Then we grow them, nurturing them using special methods, and then we plant them right here in trays. They are this small and large. And then we start the whole process with the nutrient solution. They begin to absorb this nutrient solution, taking in nutrients and starting to grow. They grow in height, develop a root system, and then a stolon forms. Well, in general, it's almost like in the field. Stolons are formed and then mini tubers begin to develop on the stolons. What is a mini tuber? It is practically the same as a regular tuber in the field. Only if a regular tuber is grown in the field to a certain large size, do we harvest them here when they are still very small? They are very delicate. They do not yet have a formed skin. We carefully remove them and then send them to the refrigerator, to a special storage. There we lower the temperature to 3 degrees to keep them till the next year. And let's say if we harvest them in June, July, August or September, right now at the end of September, we send them for storage in the refrigerator, lowering the temperature to 3 degrees, and they are preserved until the next year. And already in the next year we take them out and then plant them in the field specifically.
So, does it mean that the process of variety propagation is starting, or is it still not variety propagation?
Well, we have varieties and lines that have been specifically developed, because a line and a variety are different things, so to speak. A variety is already an established line. It is still in the process of working. Yes, it goes through. And these healthy mini tubers we plant these varieties in the fields. It should be some special field located far from other potato fields, so that neither aphids nor any phytophthora can cause any damage. Usually we harvest somewhere in the dense remote forests, then we plant. We typically plant around May. When the harvest of regular potatoes begins, the harvest of the first field generation starts. Is this what is called super elite? No, this is the first field. It's much more elite, you could say. The first field harvest is being gathered. Why is it important? And why is it done this way? The first field generation, which is derived from mini tubers, is healthy, meaning it should not have any bacterial, viral, or fungal infections. We carefully harvest this first field generation from the field. And yes, in the storage, but they're in a separate special storage for those that are large, you know.
All isolated ones are planted. The next year, and when the tubers succeed, it will be super. And then the next year we plant it, it will be super, or even more so the next year. In general, from the moment you start developing the variety itself, even before it reaches the line, this is the development of the variety. From that moment until the time we have the super elite, how much time has passed?
Well, it takes a very long time. The variety is developed over a long period. There is crossing involved, followed by very strict selection. They plant a lot of lines and then evaluate them based on various parameters, looking at how these tubers form, how they are stored, and they select very rigorously because there can be 100 of these lines. And out of those 100 lines, perhaps 1, 2, at most 5, will go further. Then, these more or less established varieties are given to us for cultivation. For us, the process from cultivation to sale, for example, to consumers like farmers who grow seed, potatoes, or farmers who grow table potatoes, takes about 5 to 7 years.
That is, from this moment to such widespread consumption, it takes 5 to 7 years. Could you tell me how many tubers you can produce?
We are trying to do as much as possible. We have big plans for several million pieces. So right now we are striving to do as much as we can. Why is this important? Because if we produce as many mini tubers as possible, we can reach a level where we can sell seed material not in 5 to 7 years, but in about 4 years. This means we will have a gross volume. And it turns out that the longer a tuber is grown in the fields, the more infections it accumulates over the years. Therefore, if we shorten this cycle from mini tuber to the moment it goes on sale, we will obtain better, healthier seed material that we can sell.
Just now, we were talking with Sergey about how increasing the area of sowing and the amount of sown material will lead to a reduction in production speed and, in fact, to consumers receiving a higher quality, better product. This is a very important question because the market is currently lacking.
Regarding sowing material, could you tell me how you currently see the situation in the market concerning the availability of Russian sowing material? I would also like to know how you assess the varietal composition of the products available in the market. If we are talking about the current moment, Russian selection is very poorly represented, accounting for no more than 10%. The varieties that dominate among farmers are mainly of imported selection. Of course, the production of these varieties is largely localized within the territory of the Russian Federation. As for Russian selection, we see that farmers have not yet tried, and not every farmer has tried domestic varieties. In order for a farmer to include certain varieties in their portfolio that they work with and regularly use in sowing each year, it is necessary to go through certain stages. That is, the variety is fully evaluated over a period of 1 to 3 years, observing how it performs in various climatic conditions and what happens due to various weather anomalies or the very different climatic conditions of various regions. It is impossible to approach and say that there are domestic varieties that can fill the market. It is necessary for the farmer to truly vote for these varieties, fully trust them and use them in production. Currently we have 13 varieties that we have developed. They are ecologically adaptable and suitable for many regions. But at the moment, out of these 13 varieties, only 3 are gaining sufficiently serious production volumes that are produced in the country. For the other varieties, they are still like a new book that few have read, and we will only find out about the love that farmers will show for these varieties a little later.
There are technical potatoes, technical varieties that are used for processing. There are also so-called table varieties, which eventually reach the consumer's table after going through a certain number of hands. And earlier we talked about the need for a large variety on the shelf. That is, there should be some specific types as well as red and brown ones. In other words, there should be such a wide variety that a person has the opportunity to choose. How do you think, how likely is the prospect of such a shelf in the near future? How much time should pass for this to happen?
Well, first of all, there is likely our desire to see some potatoes on the shelf as end consumers. There are different directions, as you have already said. There are technical varieties that are used to produce potatoes. For example, they offer free chips, and the end consumer will only see this niche in the final product. However, when it comes to supermarket shelves, a fairly wide range of varieties can be presented, which fundamentally differ from each other not only in taste qualities, referring to the presence of that potato flavor, but also in consistency and cooking methods. And the most important point is that not only the end consumer can vote with their choice, but the farmer can as well.
This is what I wanted to say, because I have a feeling that demand is quite flexible, and in fact, today the farmer sets the trend that ends up on the shelf. How ready do you think the farmer is for such diversity?
After the farmer is able to choose the varieties that are necessary for him, which are more convenient for him, first and foremost, the task is not only before the farmer, but also before the breeders, who must be able to convey to the farmer and give him the opportunity to evaluate these varieties. First of all, it is the availability of seed material, and secondly, to see how these varieties develop in his region. To this end, we conduct illustrative field days during which we plant our varieties in various climatic conditions. We invite farmers from these regions to evaluate these varieties, observe, and draw some conclusions. At the moment, our coverage is quite extensive across all regions of the Russian Federation. We conduct our seminars, participate in all exhibitions, and strive to familiarize our clients with our products as much as possible.
Watch soon in the November issue, an exclusive interview with the Kultivator Trade and Industrial Group, founded in 1992. For over 25 years, the company has been producing ready-to-eat breakfasts, cereal flakes, and oatmeal. In 2010, a new potato processing and potato flakes production plant was opened in the Ryazan region. To meet the plant's needs, the company grows and stores potatoes on its own. The group's land fund is about 20,000 hectares in the Ryazan and Vologda regions. The Kultivator Group is a vertically integrated structure that carries out a full production cycle, from growing raw materials to releasing finished products. The company has modern production facilities, financial resources, and experience in all sales channels, providing a high level of service. Potato flakes are produced with different bulk densities, from 240 to 450 grams per liter, and are packed in kraft bags of 15, 20, or 25 kilos, with the possibility of packing in a larger volume. The production facilities are equipped with modern European equipment from the Tummers Company, which allows processing more than 40,000 tons of potatoes per season and obtaining up to 7,000 tons of flakes. The products comply with the international certification standard FSSC 22000. Since the launch of the plant, potato flakes have been actively used by the largest Russian manufacturers of chips, snacks, fast food, and others. The geography of deliveries is extensive, from Kazakhstan and Belarus to Europe, Africa, and South America. Don't miss the issue.